Hey there. I got a little profound exploration to share with you. And it begins with the story. True story. Happened about 2.5 days ago. I was loading things into my car, and in order to do that, I put my book bag on the sidewalk. And then I hop into my car to drive to Target. There I am driving to Target, not realizing that my book bag was still on the sidewalk. I go to Target, short trip, I come back to the same sidewalk, thinking, looking in my car, where's my bag? Huh. I start tracking my steps, and I don't see my bag anywhere that it should be. And then I begin to put two and two together, and I'm like, I left the bag on the sidewalk and recognize that someone took it. What was in the bag, you ask? Ah, not much. Just a $2,000 MacBook Pro. Just a Nintendo Switch. So random. Just a relatively new tablet called the Remarkable. An amazing tablet, around $500 worth in there as well. And just a measly orange envelope that contained my birth certificate and social security card. All in this book bag that was taken all at once. You can imagine it was something special when it hit me like a ton of bricks as I began to review the items in the bag, and I was just like, in fact, it's interesting. I'm surprised I didn't break down. Really, like I didn't. I mean, I've had like mini panic attacks before because of really unexpected occurrences. This time, it was so much at once. This is probably the most the most value I've ever lost at once, materialistically. This was so much at once that my brain was just like, I I guess I just like transformed into a Taoist. For those that don't know, the Tao, the Tao Te Ching, speaks a lot about giving away possessions or detachment. But yeah, so this brings me, it brought me to many profound explorations about materialism, letting go, detachment, the value of our true assets. You know, how this is just a drop in the bucket. Like, I mean, sure, the birth certificate and social security card is like another level, right? You begin to fear for your identity being stolen, yada, yada. I got that covered. Don't worry. I did my damage control. I did my damage control for all this. I filed a police report and I did my checks and balances. But what I want to get at is a few things. Um, for one, when a really really distressing event occurs, like the height of distress, I think our automatic reaction, or we tend to think that we're justified to feel victimized and horrible for a good amount of time. I mean, losing a book bag like that, I would feel justified in feeling horrible for the next few days. But even though I would feel justified in feeling that, it's up to me to realize that that emotional pattern lasting that long wouldn't really serve me in any way, shape, or form. It would just make me feel depressed. And that feels pretty powerless. I mean, after I submitted the police report and did everything I could, I did everything I could. So once you realize that you did everything you could, you gotta, I mean, at least I always feel inclined to take my power back by asking myself a question. And I sit there and I ask myself, is there a way that this event could be perceived at some point as the greatest thing to have ever happened to me? If you have any, and I'm aside from the death of loved ones, because that's like a different level of sensitivity, this has more so to do with like materialistic losses or just objectively negative events. But I'm not trying to offend anyone and say that all energy is transformable. Like, everything has a different level of sensitivity. But with many things, if you have something very, very, very distressing occur, objectively distressing, objective as in like if 20 people look at what occurred, they'd be like, yo,
that's a pretty horrible event, you know? Objectively negative. When you have something very objectively negative occur, you have the subjective power, which is referring to how you are looking at it. You have this subjective power to choose how that objective occurrence is going to fit in your story. So I asked myself, is it possible that losing this bag could be framed as the greatest thing to have ever happened to me? And it sounds ridiculous at first. How could losing a bag of your relatively most valuable materialistic possessions and identity be the best thing that's ever happened to you? Kind of takes you a second. It takes my brain a second to contemplate that and think. But then I began to generate all sorts of reasons why. And I could share some of those reasons. But what I'm getting at is it's actually in the realm of your power and influence to create a reality where anything that occurs to you is propelling you forward instead of backwards. You'll always have that choice. It's like that beautiful quote that I used to always hear in high school. Life is 10% what happens to you, 90% how you react to it. Now, I'm also not trying to offend people that, really cling on, or not cling on, but like to highlight the phenomenon of privilege and this and that, because, yes, those are realities. But I also like looking at how our reaction to things, or our responses to things, the infinities of choices we make in terms of conceptualizing, perceiving, and acting, how all of that really makes up a grand portion of our lives. So I sit here before you, attempting to empower you, no matter what's occurring in your world, no matter how objectively negative. Use your subjective power to write the story, to pick the pen up, to write a new sentence. Because you can. So why not?